What happened at a wedding that let you know the marriage was going to end in a divorce? The groom invited his female friend. She was in the early stages of pregnancy. Towards the end of the night, the bride asked her aforementioned friend who the father was. The friend cheerfully said the groom's name. My uncle red-faced and screaming at 14-year-old me on his wedding day to make sure I wear condoms so I don't have to marry some bitch I knocked up. The groom didn't look at the bride once. I'm a musician who used to play loads of weddings, but this wedding took the cake. What made it worse was seeing the bride so happy. The bride, whom I didn't even know, apparently designated me to help decorate the reception hall prior to the wedding. I went to do so, and her mother was there, telling me in a hushed, scared whisper that I better not mess anything up, because the bride would be furious. Everything was to be a certain way, and if it was wrong, there'd be hell to pay. I gave her the benefit of the doubt, chalked it up to wedding anxiety, and during the reception I tried to chat with her a bit, and she literally rolled her eyes at me. I also didn't see her look at the groom once at the wedding or the reception. They were split less than a year later. Later, the groom confided to me and my husband that the morning of the wedding he'd been filled with an overwhelming feeling of dread and spent several hours just sitting on his lawn, thinking, I shouldn't do this. But it was paid for. Tons of guests were waiting. Lots of family, including us, had come in from out of state, and he felt he had to go through with it. Apparently the bride had a history of being awful and controlling. No clue what made him propose to her in the first place. Edit. Just Facebook stalked the ex-bride. Her latest status update is announcing her wedding date with a new guy. Someone jokingly asked in the comments if they've set a date for the divorce. Oh snap. Friend got married. On his honeymoon, his wife went to the spa. He stayed in the room to chill. Housekeeping came. Young cute girl. Friend paid her for a blowjob. Told me about all proud. Didn't last a year. The groom's vows. Dear bride, we've had our ups and downs, mostly downs. My cousin, the bride, told us, as she was going from table to table thanking the guests, that she didn't think it would last. We were stunned. They lasted about a year. Dude said the wrong name at the altar. We knew the couple was in trouble when they frowned during most of the ceremony and later didn't go on a honeymoon because they couldn't agree on a destination. They had plenty of money, just no desire to compromise. Her vows. They were friends of mine who dated for nearly 2 years before their wedding. He loved her more than she loved him, obvious to all our friends, and we suspected she begrudgingly said yes to his proposal. He said his vows first, and went on and on about loving her for the rest of his life. During hers, he started with 438 days. That's how long I've loved you. It seemed sweet until she ended her vows with, and I promise to love you for at least 438 more. Most thought nothing of it, and some friends called me a dick for saying it was a subconscious sign she wasn't in it for the long haul. She left him exactly that amount of days after the wedding with a note that said I kept my vow to love you for 438 days more, but I can't for a single day more. Apostrophe. Called it. Groom got caught getting frisky with the bridesmaid. That marriage lasted for about 2 hours. A bunch of my family members are betting on how long one of my cousin's marriage would last. It's definitely going to end in divorce, but we just don't know when. Here's all the shit that happened. Pre-wedding. The couple can't even agree on invitation card designs, so they decided each would have their own. Some people received 2 invitations. Wedding. They're both from different races, and the groom's family insisted on having a wedding ceremony from their culture too. The bride refused the part where she has to kneel before her husband and wash his feet clean. The groom's family insisted, and she was stuck doing it. The bride got tired with all the photo taking and refused to pose for any more photographs, even though she hadn't taken photos with the groom's extended family. Meanwhile, she had already taken photos with her entire family, extended family, and parents' friends. The groom's cousin told the bride she walked in elegantly, and she spent hours crying and refusing to come out for the wedding dinner. Half the groom's family boycotted the wedding over the bride's race and religion. Post-wedding, the bride insisted they should fly first class for their honeymoon. The groom insisted it's a waste of money, even though they both come from money. The bride flew first class, the groom stuck to economy. My sister's new husband made out with a bridesmaid on the dance floor of the reception. During the ceremony, when the priest started asking the bride, do you take this man to be your? She started laughing uncontrollably and couldn't stop. It was cute for about 10 seconds, and then things got real uncomfortable. They lasted a year and change. We all kinda knew the only reason they were getting married was because she got pregnant. At the rehearsal dinner, the groom's mom is in tears because he looks miserable and we all knew it. During the vows they had written for each other, the bride starts with, I know I can be a pretty terrible person, and I don't know why you've stuck around, but that's all going to change starting today. They were divorced a year later. The bride had the minister put till death or divorce do us part into the ceremony. They spent $50K on a Disney wedding, and the bride spent zero time anywhere near the in-laws for several hours. She ran off a week later. The groom, groomsman, groom's friends, groom's father, etc., all males, just for clarification, kept making jokes about being tied down, having a nagging wife, the end of being single, not being able to flirt with other women. Basically everything was about how marriage actually sucks. This is something I will never understand. If marriage sounds that awful to you, why even get married? My cousin's wedding. The groom invited his ex, who was also the mother of his 1-year-old son. He and my cousin had been dating for longer than 2 years, and my cousin, who was then very pregnant herself, got into a loud screaming match with him over it in a bathroom. They eventually came out and got married, my cousin with puffy red eyes from crying, that you can see in every wedding photo that was taken. While saying the classic I do, instead of looking deep into his bride's eyes, the groom was peeking at one of the bridesmaids. The groom called the bride a cunt at the reception. They totally got divorced. At the end of the reception the guys are sitting at a table away from everyone else talking, and we ask the groom why he proposed. His answer? Because she was naked. Marriage lasted about 1.5 years. She flinched when he turned to kiss her. They were divorced within 6 months. The day of her wedding, I asked my sister-in-law if she was enjoying her day, and all she said was, it's a fucking nightmare. This is the worst day of my life. He didn't look me in the eyes during the entire ceremony. He stared at the preacher the whole fucking time. Gave me a kiss on the hand when it was time to kiss the bride. Also, didn't tell me that his father was a sexual pervert that wanted to pound me. He thought it was normal and okay for his dad to think this about me. I was reunited with a family member just before her wedding. We went out drinking, and she proudly pointed out a guy at the bar that she'd just gone on a trip with and had a week-long prenup sex romp. She seemed to think I'd think that was naughty and funny. I just felt bad for her future husband, but figured it was just a bad choice. The day of the wedding, I went to see her in the bridal suite. She had the guy there him. She's fucked him the night before the wedding. They lasted a few years, but it was a miserable few. I was working at a wedding factory. On Monday we got a call the Saturday wedding was cancelled. They were told that they would lose the deposit, around $7,000. Then on Thursday they said it was back on. When the guests arrived everyone was pissed off. It seems they told everyone it was off. Then 2 days later, that it was on. The ceremony was about 3 minutes. The bride then changed into sweatpants, and then everyone got angry drunk. Well, this won't last long, I thought. Then on the following Monday the bride walked into my then wife's divorce attorney's office. The groom looked drunk and the bride seemed incredibly angry. Then there was this woman walking around during the reception placing bets on when they would divorce. I later found out she was the mother of the groom. When the father of the bride tells the groom, how can you marry somebody like her? You are too nice. You deserve better. Surely enough, the marriage lasted less than 3 years. During the whole time, the wife was doing drugs and prostituted herself to get money for drugs. Just got married 2 weeks ago. Wife's father engraved her name and wedding date on the cake knife. Mine was absent. Our friend was the girl who had spent a whole year setting up for the one day. They had taken 6 months of dancing lessons, and she has spent a ridiculous amount of time looking good and dressing up her bridesmaids for the wedding, of which my wife was one. So come the night of the wedding, the groom meets up with his old friends and starts to get blackout drunk. He got so drunk he didn't even recognize us, rather just pushing us aside to get to the bathroom. The worst part was the dance itself. It was really heartbreaking to see them stumble around and watch the panic on her face as he realized he had no idea what was going on. I gave it 6 months at the time, but they ended up 3 years. She ended up marrying another woman. The groom would not stop crying. He cried through the entire ceremony and most of the reception. I thought my sister's wedding was. Her husband got blackout drunk and they got into an argument. He passed out and she ended up throwing a bucket of ice water in his face to snap him out of it. She was devastated about it. Happy ending. He made it up to her big time. Also, he felt very out of it even the next day. Turns out he had traces of Rohypnol in his system. His own brother roofied him in hopes he wouldn't marry my sister because he wanted their own friendship to remain the same. My brother-in-law has disowned most of his family because of this, and his brother just got out of a 4-year prison sentence. Wedding was going okay until the bride and groom got hammered. Groom's baby mama ex showed up. Then the bride proceeded to lock herself in a room crying and continuing to drink by herself. It was a sh*t show to say the least. The bride got blackout drunk and asked me to kill her husband. He was busy fighting one of his groomsmen in the other room. They divorced 2 years later. Toward the end of the reception, the bride suggested to the groom he run home and change into street clothes so they could clean the venue and get the deposit returned. Groom got back and bride had opened all the gift envelopes and paid back relatives with the cash they contained. Source: the groom was me. I do audio/visual for social events, a lot of weddings. At one engagement party, my co-worker tells the story of the soon-to-be groom trying to carry off his soon-to-be bride, because he's manly and will have his way with her. Anyways, she is screaming at him to put her down, and when he finally complies she slaps him right across the face and yells, "I'm not done dancing." It was a shotgun wedding, they proudly proclaimed it as such. Overheard the bride's mother saying that the bride was such a later bloomer for waiting until 19 to trap herself a man. The child is 3 years old and they have been separated, don't know if divorced, since she was 1. At my brother's wedding his bride gave him the cheek at the "you may kiss the bride" part. Yeah, she ended up cheating on him with some guy online in less than a year.